In the vast expanse of the universe, where stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across an endless velvet canvas, there existed a planet known as Zorathia. This world was not like any other. It shimmered with colors that defied human imagination, its skies painted in hues of lavender and gold. On this ethereal planet lived Queen Lysandra, the ruler of the Zorathians, a race of beings whose beauty could make even the most hardened souls weep. Queen Lysandra was no ordinary monarch. She stood tall, her skin glimmering like liquid silver under the twin suns of her realm. Her eyes were pools of deep violet, capable of commanding armies with a single glance. Yet, what made her truly extraordinary was her touch, an ability passed down through generations of royal bloodlines. A mere brush of her fingers could freeze anyone, rendering them immobile as if time itself had halted for them. It was said that she used this power sparingly, only when necessary to maintain order among her people. But whispers spread far beyond Zorathia's borders about how terrifying and awe-inspiring her piercing gaze and icy touch could be. The humans knew little of Zorathia or its queen until one fateful day when their paths crossed unexpectedly. Earth scientists had long been searching for signs of intelligent life elsewhere in the cosmos, but they never imagined they would stumble upon something so magnificent and dangerous. The first encounter happened during a routine exploration mission aboard the starship Aurora. Captain Alden Hayes, a man whose courage matched his curiosity, led the crew as they ventured into uncharted territories. Little did he know that his actions would soon entangle him in a tale of emotion, humor, drama, and action unlike anything humanity had ever experienced. As the Aurora approached Zorathia, its sensors detected unusual energy readings emanating from the planet's surface. Captain Alden Hayes ordered his crew to prepare for landing. They touched down on a field of crystalline grass that sparkled under the alien suns, each blade shimmering like tiny prisms. The air smelled faintly sweet, laced with floral notes that felt almost intoxicating. It didn't take long before the Zorathians appeared, graceful figures gliding toward the humans with an elegance that seemed otherworldly. Their leader, Queen Lysandra, emerged from the crowd, her presence commanding instant silence. Dressed in flowing robes adorned with intricate patterns resembling constellations, she exuded authority and grace. Her hair cascaded down her back in waves of silvery white, catching the light like molten metal. When she spoke, her voice carried a melodic resonance that sent shivers down everyone's spines. "Who dares trespass upon Zorathian soil?" she demanded, her tone firm yet tinged with curiosity. Captain Hayes stepped forward, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "We mean no harm, Your Majesty," he replied, bowing slightly out of respect. "We are explorers from Earth, seeking knowledge and understanding." Lysandra studied him for a moment, her violet eyes narrowing. Then, without warning, she extended her hand toward one of Hayes' crew members, a young scientist named Clara, who froze mid-step, her expression locked in surprise. Gasps erupted from both sides, and tension crackled in the air. Hayes quickly interjected, "Please, Your Highness, we come in peace." For a brief moment, Lysandra hesitated. Something about Hayes' earnest plea struck a chord within her. Slowly, she lowered her hand, releasing Clara from her frozen state. The scientist stumbled backward, visibly shaken but unharmed. Lysandra regarded Hayes once more, this time with a flicker of intrigue in her gaze. "You have my attention, human," she said finally. "But tread carefully, for my patience is not infinite." Thus began an uneasy alliance between the humans and the Zorathians. While Hayes attempted to foster goodwill, his crew couldn't help but feel uneasy around the alien queen whose mere touch held such devastating power. And yet, none of them could deny the magnetic pull of her regal demeanor, or the strange warmth that lingered behind her icy exterior. Even as tensions simmered between the humans and the Zorathians, Captain Hayes found himself drawn to Queen Lysandra in ways he couldn't quite explain. There was something mesmerizing about her, not just her unearthly beauty, but also the quiet strength she carried beneath her regal facade. During their initial meetings, he noticed how her sharp wit often softened into moments of genuine curiosity when discussing Earth's culture and history. She listened intently, asking questions that revealed a mind eager to learn despite her role as an unyielding ruler. One evening, after a particularly grueling negotiation session, Hayes invited Lysandra to join him on a walk through the crystalline fields surrounding their makeshift camp. At first, she declined, citing protocol and the need to remain vigilant. But something in Hayes' calm persistence, A trait she hadn't encountered before, compelled her to reconsider. As they strolled together under the twin suns, the atmosphere shifted subtly. Hayes shared stories of Earth's vast oceans, towering mountains, and bustling cities, painting vivid pictures with his words. In return, Lysandra spoke of Zorathia's ancient traditions, its symbiotic relationship with nature, and the weight of responsibility that came with being queen. What neither of them anticipated was the laughter that bubbled up during their conversation. Hayes recounted a humorous mishap from his early days as a cadet, stumbling over equipment during a training exercise. To his astonishment, Lysandra laughed, a sound so melodic it seemed to harmonize with the rustling grass beneath their feet. For a fleeting moment, she wasn't the formidable ruler of Zorathia. She was simply a woman enjoying a rare moment of levity. It was then that Hayes realized she wasn't as untouchable as she seemed. Beneath the layers of duty and power lay someone who yearned for connection, just like anyone else. Their growing rapport, however, did not go unnoticed by others. Some members of Hayes' crew whispered concerns about getting too close to someone who could freeze them at will, while certain Zorathian advisors viewed the budding friendship with suspicion, fearing it might weaken their queen's resolve. Yet neither Hayes nor Lysandra paid much heed to these murmurs. Each meeting between them became a delicate dance of trust and discovery, where barriers slowly crumbled, replaced by an undeniable bond neither fully understood but both refused to ignore. As days turned into weeks, the fragile alliance between humans and Zorathians faced its first major test. A rogue faction of Zorathian rebels, dissatisfied with Queen Lysandra's openness to outsiders, launched a daring attack on the human encampment. Under the cover of darkness, they unleashed a barrage of energy weapons, their strikes precise and relentless. Chaos erupted as alarms blared and shouts filled the air. Captain Hayes sprang into action, barking orders to his crew while dodging blasts of searing light. Amidst the commotion, Hayes spotted Lysandra rushing toward the scene, her face a mask of fury. Without hesitation, she raised her hand, freezing several attackers in their tracks. The sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, her power cutting through the chaos like a blade. But even her abilities couldn't stop every rebel. One assailant managed to slip past her defenses, aiming directly at Hayes. Time seemed to slow as the weapon's beam hurtled toward him. Without thinking, Lysandra leapt in front of Hayes, shielding him with her body. The impact knocked her off balance, but she remained standing, her expression fierce and unyielding. For a moment, Hayes stared at her in stunned disbelief. He had expected her to protect her own people, not him, a foreigner who represented everything some Zorathians feared. Yet here she was, risking herself for someone who shouldn't have mattered to her. When the dust settled and the remaining rebels fled, Hayes knelt beside Lysandra, concern etched across his face. "Why did you do that?" he asked, his voice trembling. Her reply was simple, yet it carried the weight of revelation. "Because you've shown me kindness when I least deserved it," she said softly. "And because—" she paused, her violet eyes searching his. "Because I refuse to let fear dictate my choices anymore." In that moment, Hayes saw something extraordinary. Cracks forming in the icy armor Lysandra had worn for so long. What began as a tentative friendship had evolved into something deeper, a shared vulnerability that bound them together in ways neither could have foreseen. The aftermath of the attack left ripples across both camps, stirring emotions that ran deeper than anyone had anticipated. Among the humans, whispers of gratitude mingled with lingering apprehension. Clara, the young scientist who had been frozen earlier by Lysandra's touch, now spoke of the Queen with newfound admiration. "She saved Captain Hayes," Clara remarked during a debriefing session. "I never thought I'd say this, but maybe she's not as cold as she seems." Others nodded in agreement, though skepticism still lingered in some corners. Meanwhile, within the Zorathian ranks, Lysandra faced mounting pressure from her council. Advisors argued fervently against her continued association with the humans, claiming it weakened her authority and endangered their society. "Your Majesty, your actions defy logic," one elder admonished sternly. "You risk undermining centuries of tradition for the sake of—" "What?" "Friendship." Lysandra listened silently, her jaw tightening. When she finally spoke, her voice carried an edge of steel. "Tradition is not infallible," she declared. "If clinging to it means turning our backs on those who bring us new perspectives, then perhaps it is time we reevaluate what truly defines us as a people." Her words ignited heated debates among the Zorathians, dividing them further. Some rallied behind their queen, inspired by her willingness to challenge the status quo. Others grew increasingly resentful, viewing her actions as reckless and self-serving. Tensions simmered just below the surface, threatening to boil over at any moment. For Hayes, the emotional toll of recent events weighed heavily on him. While he admired Lysandra's bravery, he couldn't shake the gnawing guilt of being the catalyst for so much discord. Late one night, he confided in Clara as they sat outside the encampment, gazing at the alien constellations above. "Do you think I'm doing the right thing?" he asked quietly. "Every step forward seems to push someone else back." Clara placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You're human, Captain. That means making mistakes sometimes. But look at how far you've come with Lysandra. Isn't that worth fighting for?" Hayes sighed, rubbing his temples. "It's not just about me and her anymore. It's about two worlds trying to find common ground. And honestly, I don't know if we can." Yet despite his doubts, Hayes couldn't deny the profound connection he shared with Lysandra. Their bond had grown beyond mere camaraderie. It was a partnership forged in trust, tested by danger, and tempered by mutual respect. Each interaction between them revealed new layers of vulnerability, drawing them closer even as external forces sought to drive them apart. Whether it was sharing quiet moments under the twin suns or strategizing together in tense negotiations, their chemistry was undeniable. Lysandra, too, found herself grappling with conflicting emotions. For years, she had ruled with unwavering resolve, suppressing personal desires for the sake of her people. But Hayes' presence awakened something within her, a yearning for authenticity she hadn't allowed herself to feel before. She caught herself smiling more often, laughing at his clumsy attempts to pronounce Zorathian phrases, and marveling at his determination to bridge the gap between their worlds. Yet with every smile came a pang of fear of losing control, fear of disappointing her people, and fear of letting herself care too much. One evening, as they walked along the crystalline fields, Hayes turned to her with a question that had clearly been weighing on his mind. "Do you ever wonder what would happen if we weren't bound by duty? If we could just be?" Lysandra stopped in her tracks, her breath catching. She looked at him, her violet eyes reflecting a storm of emotions. "Every day," she admitted softly. "But wishing won't change reality, Captain. We carry burdens neither of us chose, yet cannot abandon." Hayes nodded, his expression somber. "Then we'll carry them together. Whatever comes next, we'll face it side by side." Though neither voiced it aloud, both knew their journey was far from over. The challenges ahead loomed large, but so did the promise of what might lie beyond, if only they dared to hope. As days stretched into weeks, the fragile peace between humans and Zorathians teetered precariously on the brink of collapse. The rebel faction, emboldened by their previous attack, grew bolder, launching sporadic raids aimed at destabilizing Lysandra's rule. Rumors swirled of a secret weapon hidden deep within Zorathia's labyrinthine caverns, a weapon rumored to amplify the Queen's freezing touch to catastrophic levels. These whispers reached Hayes' ears during a tense meeting with Lysandra, prompting him to voice his concerns. "We need to secure that weapon before they get their hands on it," Hayes urged, pacing the room. "If the rebels manage to harness its power, there's no telling what damage they could inflict." Lysandra's expression darkened. "The caverns of Arinder are sacred ground, forbidden to all but the royal lineage. Even I have not ventured there since my coronation. Which makes it the perfect hiding place for something dangerous," Hayes countered. "They'll exploit your absence to seize control." Reluctantly, Lysandra agreed to accompany Hayes and a small team into the caverns. The journey proved treacherous from the start. The entrance was concealed behind a waterfall cascading with bioluminescent water, its glow casting eerie shadows on the jagged rocks. As they descended deeper, the air grew colder, and the walls shimmered with veins of crystal pulsating faintly, as if alive. The group moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing ominously in the silence. Suddenly, a low growl reverberated through the cavern. From the shadows emerged a pack of sleek, reptilian creatures with glowing red eyes, guardians of the sacred grounds. Hayes instinctively drew his weapon, but Lysandra raised a hand, halting him. "Wait," she whispered. Stepping forward, she extended her palm toward the beasts, her touch freezing them mid-motion. The creatures collapsed harmlessly to the ground, immobilized but unharmed. Impressed, Hayes muttered, "Handy trick." Lysandra shot him a wry glance. "Don't get used to it." Further ahead, the path split into 3 tunnels, each marked with ancient runes. Hayes squinted at the symbols, scratching his head. "Any idea which way leads to the weapon?" Lysandra frowned, tracing the markings with her fingers. "These inscriptions are riddles meant to test the worthy. Choose wrong, and we risk triggering traps." After some deliberation, they opted for the middle tunnel, guided by Hayes' hunch rather than logic. The passage narrowed significantly, forcing them to crawl on hands and knees. Just as claustrophobia began setting in, they emerged into a vast chamber illuminated by floating orbs of light. At its center rested a pedestal holding the legendary artifact, a crystalline orb radiating an intense chill that prickled their skin. Before they could approach, a figure stepped out from the shadows. Commander Valen, leader of the rebel faction. His sneer twisted into a triumphant grin as he brandished a device resembling a gauntlet. "You're too late," he crowed. "With this amplifier, I'll ensure Lysandra's reign ends tonight." Without warning, Valen activated the gauntlet, sending waves of freezing energy surging toward them. Lysandra reacted swiftly, countering with her own touch, creating a barrier of ice that absorbed the brunt of the assault. Sparks flew as the 2 powers clashed, filling the chamber with deafening cracks and flashes of light. Hayes seized the opportunity to act. Grabbing a loose shard of crystal from the wall, he hurled it at Valen's gauntlet, striking it with precision. The device malfunctioned, emitting a high-pitched whine before exploding in a shower of sparks. Valen staggered back, clutching his injured hand, his confidence shattered. Breathing heavily, Lysandra advanced toward him, her voice steely. "Your rebellion ends here, Valen. Surrender now, or face the consequences." Defeated, Valen dropped to his knees, his pride crumbling alongside his plans. As Hayes secured the villain, Lysandra turned to the crystalline orb, her expression conflicted. "This power was never meant to be wielded recklessly," she murmured. With a decisive motion, she shattered the artifact against the pedestal, its fragments dissolving into harmless dust. Exhausted but victorious, Hayes joined her side. "Well, that takes care of one problem," he said with a weary grin. "Now on to the next 100. Lysandra chuckled despite herself. "Always optimistic, aren't you?" "It's what keeps us going," he replied, his tone softening. "And maybe it's what keeps us together." For a moment, they stood side by side, united by shared triumph and unspoken promises. Though the battle was won, the war for unity and understanding was far from over. But in that fleeting instant, surrounded by the remnants of chaos, they found solace in each other's presence, a beacon of hope amid uncertainty. As the dust settled in the caverns, the weight of their victory, and the sacrifices it demanded, began to sink in. Back at the encampment, news of the thwarted rebellion spread rapidly, igniting a mix of relief and unease among both humans and Zorathians. For the humans, the destruction of the crystalline orb symbolized a step toward safety, yet it also underscored the fragility of their alliance. Whispers circulated about whether Lysandra's decision to destroy such a powerful artifact had been wise. Some praised her restraint, seeing it as proof of her commitment to peace. Others questioned if dismantling the weapon had left them vulnerable to future threats. Among the Zorathians, reactions were equally divided. Many revered Lysandra for her courage and decisiveness, viewing her actions as a reaffirmation of her dedication to protecting her people. However, dissent simmered beneath the surface. Valen's capture had dealt a significant blow to the rebels, but their ideology persisted, finding fertile ground in those who believed Zorathia's purity was being compromised by human influence. Secret meetings took place in shadowed corners, where murmurs of resistance grew louder. Lysandra's advisors pressed her to take harsher measures against dissenters, urging her to quash rebellion with the same icy resolve she had displayed in battle. Yet she resisted, unwilling to govern through fear. For Hayes, the emotional toll of recent events manifested in restless nights and strained interactions with his crew. Despite his outward composure, he wrestled with doubt, questioning whether his presence on Zorathia was doing more harm than good. During one particularly sleepless night, he wandered to the edge of the crystalline fields, staring up at the alien constellations. Clara found him there, her expression sympathetic. "You look like you're carrying the weight of 2 worlds on your shoulders," she said gently. Hayes sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Maybe I am. Every move we make feels like walking a tightrope. One misstep, and everything falls apart." Clara sat beside him, her voice steady. "That's leadership, Captain. You can't please everyone. But look at what you've achieved so far. Lysandra trusts you. Her people are starting to see us differently because of you. That's progress." "It doesn't feel like enough," Hayes admitted. "There's still so much distrust, so much anger. Sometimes I wonder if we're fighting a losing battle." Lysandra, too, grappled with her own internal struggles. Destroying the crystalline orb had been a calculated risk, one that left her questioning her judgment. Memories of her ancestors' warnings echoed in her mind, reminders of the dangers of wielding power irresponsibly. Yet she couldn't shake the sense that preserving the artifact would have only fueled further conflict. Her advisor's criticism stung, but it was the quiet moments alone that troubled her most. Sitting in her chambers, she traced the scars on her palms, reminders of battles fought and sacrifices made. She wondered if history would judge her kindly, or at all. Despite these doubts, the bond between Hayes and Lysandra continued to deepen, becoming a lifeline in turbulent times. Their conversations grew more intimate, their laughter more frequent, and their silences more meaningful. One evening, as they strolled through the crystalline fields bathed in the soft glow of the twin moons, Lysandra broke the quiet with a rare confession. "I envy you sometimes," she said softly. "Your ability to laugh in the face of adversity. To believe in second chances when all evidence suggests otherwise." Hayes smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "And I envy your strength. Your conviction. You carry the hopes of an entire world on your shoulders, and somehow you keep moving forward." They stopped walking, facing each other under the shimmering sky. For a moment, the weight of their responsibilities faded, leaving only the raw honesty of 2 souls navigating uncharted territory. Hayes reached out hesitantly, brushing a strand of silvery hair from her face. Lysandra didn't flinch, her violet eyes locking onto his with an intensity that stole his breath. "There's something about you, Captain Hayes," she murmured. "Something I can't quite explain. But whatever it is, I don't want to lose it." Hayes swallowed hard, his voice barely above a whisper. "Then don't. Let's figure this out, together." Their shared resolve, born of countless trials and moments of vulnerability, became the foundation of their partnership. While the road ahead remained fraught with challenges, they clung to the hope that their combined strength could forge a new path, one where humans and Zorathians might coexist not as adversaries, but as allies. In each other, they had found not just support, but inspiration, a reminder that even in the darkest times, the light of connection could guide the way. As the days turned into weeks, Hayes and Lysandra worked tirelessly to mend the fractures between their 2 peoples. They organized joint gatherings where humans and Zorathians could share stories, music, and traditions. At first, these meetings were awkward, with both sides eyeing each other warily. But slowly, barriers began to crumble. A human engineer taught a group of Zorathian artisans how to create tools that combined Earth's practicality with Zorathia's shimmering aesthetics. In return, a Zorathian musician introduced the humans to melodies played on instruments made from crystalline plants, their haunting beauty bringing tears to even the most stoic listeners. Hayes and Lysandra became the heart of these efforts, their bond serving as a bridge between worlds. During one particularly memorable event, Hayes attempted, rather clumsily, to mimic a traditional Zorathian dance. His stumbling steps sent ripples of laughter through the crowd, easing tensions in ways neither diplomacy nor force could achieve. Lysandra watched him with an amused smile, shaking her head before joining him on the makeshift dance floor. Together, they twirled under the twin moons, their laughter echoing across the crystalline fields. Yet, despite these strides, challenges persisted. The rebels, though weakened, still whispered dissent in shadowy corners. Some Zorathians clung to old fears, viewing the humans as invaders rather than guests. And among Hayes' crew, homesickness gnawed at morale. It was during one such low point that Clara approached Hayes, her usual optimism dimmed by exhaustion. "Captain," she said quietly, "I know you're doing everything you can, Don't forget about yourself. You've been carrying this weight for so long. Let someone else share it for once." Her words struck a chord. Hayes realized he had been so focused on uniting two worlds that he'd neglected his own well-being, and perhaps Lysandra's too. That night, he sought her out in her private chambers, finding her seated by an open window, gazing at the stars. "You look like you're carrying the galaxy on your shoulders," he teased gently, leaning against the doorway. Lysandra glanced at him, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "Perhaps I am. Or perhaps I'm simply tired of carrying it alone." Hayes stepped closer, sitting beside her. "You're not alone anymore, Lysandra. Not if you don't want to be." Her violet eyes softened, reflecting the starlight. "What are you suggesting, Captain?" "I'm suggesting we stop pretending we have all the answers," he replied earnestly. "We've been trying to fix everything for everyone, but maybe what we need is to let go, for just a little while, and focus on what matters most." "And what is that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Us," Hayes said simply. "Whatever this is between us, it's real. And it's worth fighting for." Lysandra reached out, her fingers brushing his hand. For the first time, she didn't hesitate to touch him, not out of fear or duty, but because she wanted to. The warmth of her skin surprised him. It wasn't cold like her freezing power, but alive, vibrant. In that moment, something shifted, a door opening within them both, leading to possibilities neither had dared imagine. The turning point came unexpectedly. One morning, as the suns rose over Zorathia, casting golden light across the landscape, a young Zorathian child wandered into the human encampment. Curious and unafraid, the boy approached Hayes, holding out a small, glowing crystal. "For you," he said shyly, his voice high-pitched and melodic. Hayes knelt to meet the child's gaze, accepting the gift with a grin. "Thank you. It's beautiful." He glanced around, noticing several other children peeking from behind crystalline bushes, their wide eyes filled with curiosity rather than fear. Wordlessly, Hayes signaled to his crew, who brought out toys and trinkets salvaged from Earth. Within minutes, laughter erupted as humans and Zorathian children played together, their joy infectious. Word of the impromptu gathering spread quickly. By midday, adults from both sides joined in, sharing food, stories, and laughter. Even some former rebels appeared, their expressions wary but curious. When Lysandra arrived, she found Hayes seated cross-legged on the ground, surrounded by giggling children who had adorned his uniform with flower-like crystals. She laughed, a sound so pure it drew smiles from everyone nearby. That evening, under the glow of the twin moons, Hayes stood before the assembled crowd, his voice steady yet warm. "When we first arrived here, we thought we were strangers. Different worlds, different lives. But tonight, I see something else, a connection stronger than any difference. We may not always understand each other, but we can choose to trust, to hope, to build something new, together." Lysandra joined him, her presence commanding silence. "For too long, I feared change," she admitted, her voice resonating with honesty. "But now I see that growth cannot happen without it. Let us embrace this new chapter, not as rulers and subjects, or as humans and Zorathians, but as equals." The applause that followed was thunderous, blending cheers, whistles, and even a few tears. As the celebration continued late into the night, Hayes and Lysandra slipped away, retreating to the crystalline fields where their journey had begun. Hand in hand, they walked beneath the shimmering sky, their hearts lighter than they had been in months. "I never imagined I'd find happiness here," Lysandra confessed, resting her head on Hayes' shoulder. "But you've shown me that peace isn't about perfection, it's about choice. About believing in something better, even when it feels impossible." Hayes kissed her forehead, his voice soft. "And you've reminded me why I became an explorer, not just to discover new worlds, but to find connections that transcend them." As they stood there, bathed in moonlight, the universe seemed vast yet intimate, infinite yet theirs alone. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they faced them not as adversaries or outsiders, but as partners bound by love, trust, and hope. For the first time, the future didn't feel daunting, it felt limitless. And so, amidst the sparkling fields of Zorathia, two souls from different worlds found their home in each other, proving that even in the darkest corners of the cosmos, light could shine brightest when shared.